Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is December 4th, 2025. My name is Mike Kelly. I'm the Chair of Board of County Commissioners of Johnson County, Kansas. We're here for an agenda review of our meeting that'll take place on December 11th, 2025. I will note for the record that all commissioners are present. Therefore, we will start with item number 1. Ask the clerk to please read the item into the record.
Approving the November 13th, 2025 business session minutes.
Any questions on those minutes? Seeing none. How about number 2, please?
Consider authorizing a contract for a period of 72 months with Canon Medical Systems USA, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $396,060 for the period ending November 30th, 2031 to provide maintenance services for CT scan equipment and approve an exception to competition for the contract per Administrative Policy and Procedure number 110-180.
Dr. Peterson, how are you doing today? Doing very well, thank you.
Dr. Peterson, Chief Medical Examiner, this is a request to renew our current maintenance agreement for our CT scanner in the medical examiner's office. The CT scanner was purchased through an IFB process back in 2019-2020 when the building was being built, and we have been using the CT scanner since day one, since 2020. Canon was the successful vendor for the CT scanner, and this is a maintenance agreement through Canon. So the benefit there is the technicians that come out to do the preventative maintenance are Canon employees, are very familiar with the equipment and have that technical specialized knowledge for the equipment. To give a little bit other background and statistics on our use of our CT scanner, how they measure the lifespan of a CT is through the use of the CT tube, which is part of the mechanics of it, and it measures it in scanning seconds. And we have scanned about 279,000 seconds, and the lifespan of a CT tube is about 600 to 800,000 seconds. So we're about halfway through our current CT tube, and about 10 years is about what to be expected for a CT tube. The maintenance agreement does include a CT tube, so if the tube goes down, the maintenance agreement covers the cost of that. The cost of a new CT tube for our machine is about $100,000 to $175,000. So without the maintenance agreement, if the tube were to go down, we would have to come up with unbudgeted money to replace that. Doing the maintenance agreement puts in place a budgeted amount to have the regular inspections, preventative maintenance. They come out quarterly and do preventative maintenance. If something goes down, the local technician is local. He's here same day or next day, very rapid turnaround if something goes down to come and fix it. And he does our regular software updates, calibration to make sure the safety and the functionality of the CT is maintained. And I open up for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Questions on this item? Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Peterson, I just have some incidental question about some of your analytics, so maybe if we could visit before next week.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brewer.
Thank you, Chair. My question is, the maintenance contract, does that include then the equipment replacement if something has to be replaced while they're doing the maintenance, or is this, okay?
It does, and in fact, we have had, last year, I believe it was, one of the parts of the CT went down, and they replaced it for free. They came out within a day or so, had the part and replaced it, and there was no additional cost to us when that part went down.
And the request for $396,060 is to take us to term of November 30th of 2031. It's not a per year, that's the full amount for that term of time.
That's correct. The per year amount is just slightly over $66,000.
Perfect, thank you, I appreciate it.
Any further questions or comments? Other than that prudent maintenance prevents us from having to buy new. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
How about item number 3?
Consider allocating $243,000 of the 2026 Johnson County Alcohol Tax Funds, ATF, and $100,000 of the opioid settlement funds in the recommended amounts from the Drug and Alcoholism Council of Johnson County as presented in United Community Services of Johnson County's, USC, 2026 Substance Use Continuum of Care Recommendations Report, and allocating $170,600 for the 2026 Human Service Fund as outlined by United Community Services of Johnson County in its 2026 Human Service Fund Recommendations Report.
Susan Meyer from the County Manager's Office here to present the item. Welcome back.
Thank you. Chairman and Commissioner Susan Meyer, County Manager's Office. This is our annual report out from United Community Services about our alcohol and tax fund distribution, opioid funds that are already budgeted for them to receive, and the Human Services Fund allocations. The action before you is to approve those expenditures for the 3 which were in the motion for all 3 of those funding sources, and then also it is upon the board to approve the allocations report for the alcohol and tax funding by state statute. So here to explain some of those is Erica Garcia Reyes with United Community Services.
Good morning, all. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share the recommendations for the Substance Use Continuum of Care Fund. I did see that in your briefing sheet, it was kind of explain what the alcohol tax fund is, but just wanted to kind of refresh. The alcohol tax fund are derived from a state excise tax on liquor sold by the drink, which was established in 1980. Per statute, the part of the revenue generated is returned to the jurisdictions in which it was collected, with a stipulation that a third actually needs to be spent for programs whose principal purpose is alcoholism and drug abuse prevention and treatment. The opioid settlement fund, on the other side, are also special purpose, special revenue funds distributed by the Kansas Attorney General's office to municipalities that join the statewide opioid settlement agreement. The OSF funds are expected to be allocated to those jurisdictions until about 2040. The OSF allows the expansion of the Continuum of Care Fund in the earlier stages of prevention, such as addressing adverse childhood experiences, which might be traumatic events that typically happen from 0 to 17 years old. So really addressing that prevention component. And then also OSF allows us to do a little bit more back end in the later stages after treatment and focus on reintegration in the community through housing, transportation, peer support, and work supports. All of these funds are overseen by the Drug and Alcoholism Council. There are currently 18 members. The DAC members are representatives from participating jurisdictions, community members, medical professionals, school district representatives, and also individuals with law enforcement expertise. They utilize the report assessment that is compiled every 3 to 5 years with priorities that includes input from key stakeholders, review of literature, and also uses indicator data for Johnson County. As far as the jurisdiction support for 2026, we've typically, alcohol tax fund has consisted of 10 jurisdictions, including Johnson County government, and also the OSF funds consist of 6 jurisdictions, which include Johnson County government. Together, for 2026, we have an estimated a little bit over $3 million that were available to allocate. In 2024, we were able to support over 90,000 Johnson County residents that benefited from the 26 SUF supported programs. For 2026, the DAC reviewed 22 applications, including one new applicant requesting nearly $3.5 million in funding. The funding gap this year was nearly $450,000. And as you'll see on the report that is over 30 pages long, some of the agencies were seeking increases in ATF, especially because we were expecting to see a slight decrease in OSF, as some of the jurisdictions are already seeing their OSF dollars beginning to decline. But thankfully, we were able to connect with a couple of other jurisdictions that decided to do an increase this year. So overall, the 22 applications are recommended for funding. Again, there was a lot of moving parts, so I won't take the time to go over all of that, but I would like to mention that Blue Valley School District did not submit an application, but does have carryover of about $44,000 to use in 2026. So we wanted to make sure and include that information in the recommendations report. But overall, 7 programs will receive their full request, and also including the full funding for DECA. And DECA will provide outpatient services, including intensive treatment therapy and group counseling in response to preferred family health care's closure of their Olathe offices. DECA has a statewide reputation and has been very well known for their naloxone distribution. They are located in Johnson County, and we're very excited about their program. Overall, we are recommending 2 school district programs, 6 Johnson County government organizations, and 14 nonprofits. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Ms. Garcia-Reyes. Questions, comments at this time? Commissioner Ashcraft?
Sorry, Mr.
I got you.
Yes, I'm sorry, I got your reports yesterday. I have not had a chance to look at them closely. Maybe if we could visit before next week, I would appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, not seeing further questions. Thank you very much, Ms. Bachman. How about item number 4, please?
Resolution number 160-25. Resolution number 160-25, expressing support for TerraPower Advanced Nuclear Energy Facility consideration.
Norris, Assistant County Manager, welcome back.
Thank you. Yes. So for your consideration is Resolution 160-25. This is a resolution expressing support for TerraPower's consideration of Johnson County as a potential site for an advanced nuclear energy facility and affirming the county's commitment to reliable and sustainable energy infrastructure. This resolution expresses Johnson County's interest in being considered for this facility. It positions the county competitively in the 2026 site selection process while maintaining our full regulatory authority and requiring comprehensive public engagement before any specific project decisions are made. This does not bind the county financially or otherwise in any sort of way. In September, the 2025 TerraPower, Evergy, and the Kansas Department of Commerce signed an MOU to explore siting of a Natrium advanced nuclear reactor in Kansas. This would be a 345 megawatt facility, which features integrated energy storage up to 500 megawatts output. So that's about a little over 5.5 hours available of energy, enhanced safety systems, and a small 400-meter emergency planning zone. The project has bipartisan support from the governor, lieutenant governor, and U.S. Senators Moran and Marshall. Site selection will occur in 2026, and it will be based on community support, site characteristics, infrastructure, and workforce. Coffee County, Lyon County, and Emporia, Hutchinson, and DeSoto have already expressed interest, underscoring the importance of us getting an early position on this and expressing our support as well. Some of the benefits of this project include economic impact. There'd be 1,600 construction jobs, 250 permanent positions. That's about a $20 to $30 million annual payroll. There'd be 8 to 15 million in property tax revenue, energy security, reliable, carbon-free energy, baseload power for growing residential, commercial, and industrial needs. The strengths that we have as a county, our strategic location, in Evergy territory, good infrastructure, highly educated workforce, and a strong economic base position us well here. It also puts Johnson County as a leader in advanced energy technology and sustainable development. Again, this resolution expresses interest only, does not improve any specific site or bind us in any sort of way. The county and any local government, where if this were to be cited within the city boundaries, retains full regulatory authority and approval with zoning, land use, any of those types of items. Any specific project requires separate governing body approval after comprehensive public engagement. There are also multiple federal, state, local regulatory approvals that would be needed before any site would be selected. So with that, and then again, the county would reserve the right, as if any new information comes to light or as the process unfolds, to change our position or withdraw that position. With that, staff would recommend adoption of this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Norris. Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Norris, are they talking about doing more than one of these in Kansas, or just the one right now?
Just one in Kansas, and these different communities are all expressing an interest for that.
Okay, so this morning, I know I read an article saying a site had already been selected. Okay. Thank you. I'm confused.
No worries. Commissioner Allen Brand, I believe you were next.
Thank you, Chair. So I heard DeSoto. Did I hear you say Edgerton?
No, I did not say Edgerton, but DeSoto recently approved a similar resolution expressing support.
Well, that's smart to get, again, the staff getting ahead of themselves to making sure that we had things in place. Thank you.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Thank you. Mr. Norris, the information that we have says that the site selection would be in 2026. Do you have any idea how long it would take in terms of anticipated completion and operating date?
Yeah, I think this would be a pretty extensive permitting and planning and construction process. I think it reaches out into 2030.
Okay,
For it
thank
to be
you.
online.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an interesting opportunity, and it's a long time coming. I definitely think it's worth considering and pursuing. But, Mr. Chairman, I would suggest we put this on action so that in case there's any initial public comment, we give them an opportunity to express and ask questions that I think, because it does relate to the N word, nuclear, that has a tendency to generate interest.
Well, that is any commissioner's prerogative, so we'll see it on action. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Fast.
Yeah, in there it says no financial requests, so there, would it be to the state, would it be to the DeSoto, an IRB, TIF, or not, or what's, when you say no financial, what does that mean?
Yeah, what I mean by that, or what is meant by that, is that this action right here is not a financial commitment. If as the project moves forward, there may be additional requests that come forward, but then that would be up to the board to consider as those come forward.
Not seeing further questions on this, and we'll discuss it on action next week. But as we think about and taking a step back, the big picture of economic development and job creation, as we discussed earlier, energy is a bottleneck. And increasing opportunities across the board for energy is important as we think about the future of our metro area and of Johnson County specifically. And so I look forward to continuing to discuss this. But I do support the resolution. All right, we'll see it on action next week. Thank you, Mr. Norris. How about item number 5, please?
Resolution number 159-25, consider approving and adopting resolution number 159-25 to delegate authority to the county manager or designee to execute temporary construction easements or other temporary access agreements on behalf of Johnson County.
Mr. Norris, welcome back.
All right, so for your consideration is this resolution that would delegate authority to the county manager or her designee to execute temporary construction easements or other temporary access agreements on behalf of Johnson County. Johnson County and cities within our community must routinely acquire temporary construction easements or other temporary access to one another's property to complete public improvements or construction projects. A recent example of this is a request from the city of Olathe for a temporary construction easement on the Johnson County Square property to complete water line rehabilitation project and a sanitary main through downtown. Temporary construction easements and other temporary access agreements currently require approval of the board. These easements and agreements really grant only temporary access and do not involve any transfer of permanent property rights or ownership interests at any kind. The requirement for board approval takes time to come to the board, and then approval of these routine matters that may be properly delegated to the county manager. And also help speed up time for cities to gain approval. So with that, staff recommends approval.
Thank you very much, Mr. Norris. Commissioner Ashcraft, I believe you were first right before Commissioner Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Norris, I'll direct this to you, but it's really related to the legal department. In the legal review of this, this briefing sheet, it says the legal department has prepared and approved the form of resolution, blah, blah, blah. Does that, the term form as a word of art, does that include the substance of this briefing sheet? And I'm thinking particularly in terms that this action, is it in full compliance with all rules and regulations governing our behavior and practices?
Chief Counsel.
Chair and Commissioners, yes, approval to form it's a policy decision whether you want to approve this, but as to the substance and as to the underlying form of the resolution, legal has reviewed it and finds it legally permissible for you to do such.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brewer.
So my question is going to be similar but different. So I'm gonna probably address this to Ms. Trent as legal. So I hear that we have the ability to assign this decision-making to our county manager. I don't know, is the authority that we were given for this, where is that? Statute, our charter?
Chair and Commissioners, and specifically Commissioner Brewer, there are certain items kind of in law that you're looking for interpretation of when is board approval necessary. There isn't a handbook that says this goes to the board. So there's some gray area, and this is an area where it could be delegated, it could be handled, but out of abundance of caution, we bring it forward a lot of time because it's between two municipalities or jurisdictions, governmental, and under the statutes, it does allow for those agreements. But in these particular situations, since there's usually no exchange of money, it's just a matter of temporarily allowing you, it gives us those leeway to delegate. So I think that answers your question. It is not one where I can just say yes or no. It's placed in here, but out of abundance of caution, we're doing a resolution just to make sure.
So thank you. That was my first question. And my second question, that helps me a lot because what I'm hearing is we have certain in statutes, certain powers and responsibility, but there's the ability to intentionally assign certain of those responsibilities, in this case to the county manager. So building on that, my second question is, do we have any, will there be any understood parameters, general parameters so that we understand I'm assigning this authority, and this is the expectation of parameters, so that we have a more informed template of what it is that we're assigning authority for. Does that make sense?
Yes, Chair and Commissioner Brewer, that's an excellent question, because what you may not know is behind the scenes, before your county manager signs any document, there is a memo, it is vetted, questions answered, and legal reviews and prepares that to make sure it is legally permissible. And it does go through me if there is a question or gray area along that line. So we are legally reviewing it to make sure it falls within those parameters and your current policies and procedures too.
So final comment, if that's okay. If we could, as we move this piece forward, maybe update the briefing sheet reflecting a little bit of how you just positioned that, so that we and our public has an understanding that it's not being done without a process in place, and this is what that process looks like.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Chair. I'm assuming there's an appeal process if there was a disagreement.
To understand your question,
For instance, if the city manager, if there's some discussion between two entities and one is not in agreement, it could be appealed.
right. So what happens right now when we do have an item where there is a disagreement, if you will, normally we don't bring it to the county manager for her review and approval until the other party assigns it and agrees to it. Okay. If they have a disagreement with it, then it's going on to your agenda. We are very, and this county manager, she's very thorough in reviewing and asking questions. It isn't just rubber stamped.
So this is for temporary easements to county property, right? This isn't temporary easements onto Shawnee's property or to Roland Park's property. This is onto county property. As mentioned by Mr. Norris, this inhibits potential delay in construction projects, which increase time, increase complexity, and is the biggest killer of projects. So in our continued effort to be diligent in not only the staff process for preparing briefing sheets and agenda items coming back to us, but also in our effort to be prudent in the replacement and enhancement of infrastructure in our community. I think this is a good item, and I appreciate the staff bringing it to us. Commissioner Allen.
Chair, your statement is right on, and I support this 100%. And one thing that you did leave out, it also can add a lot of cost to a project.
We put on it
Any,
consent.
that's where it is.
Oh, this is.
All right, without further questions, thank you very much, Mr. Norris, and thank you to Chief Counsel Commissioner Brewer. Another question.
I apologize. Since this is on consent agenda and I support it staying on consent agenda, just one other question. Since previously these types of issues have to come before the body and now they do not, it might be helpful for us, especially if we, if there's an easement that's granted that's within a one of our districts and we have questions, just if there's a way that we're aware of, you know, either in a management report or some typical way that if there's just a way to get a heads up on when there's easements, that way we're aware in case we get any calls of what's going on. I don't know if that's a reasonable request or not. I'm just making the suggestion.
Chair and Commissioner Brewer, we can include that we notify the district commissioner just that this is occurring. I think we're doing it already when things are occurring, but we'll make it aware.
Perfect, thank you.
Nope. All good. Thank you, Mr. Norris. Item 6, please.
Consider approving an agreement with Kansas Department of Transportation, KDOT, authorizing a high-risk rural road HRRR grant, adding rumble strips on approximately 24 miles of unincorporated county roads.
Mr. Vos from Public Works, welcome back.
Good morning. Jeff Ost with Public Works. This item is accepting a high-risk rural road grant from the Kansas Department of Transportation to add rumble stripes for approximately 24 miles of unincorporated county roads. Rumble strips are thin bands of corrugated pavement that make a rumbling noise in a car that is driving along the edge of the road. Their purpose is to warn drivers that they are about to leave the pavement surface and gives them a physical and audible signal to correct their course to stay on the pavement. To date, Public Works has added 71 miles of rumble striping along unincorporated roads, and this would add approximately 24 miles to that inventory. Rumble stripes are an important component in reducing the number of run-off-the-road crashes, which is our highest component of preventable serious crashes on unincorporated roads. The grant will provide up to $250,000 with a county match of approximately $49,000. The funding for the county match will come from the Road, Bridge, and Culvert Capital Improvement Program. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Vos, congratulations on the continued efforts of the Public Works Department in reducing accidents on rural roads. We've seen a consistent fall in the last 3 years, and we hope that continues. And with partnership from KDOT in this grant, that's another step in the right direction. So I'm supportive. Thank you. Commissioner Allenbrand.
Thank you, Chair, and great job. And I also want to personally thank you for all the emails and calls that are coming in from people. It's not like, you know, you guys get on top of it immediately. So I want to thank you for that. So it's well noted. I've got some
very much
texts
a group
I'm gonna
effort,
share
so.
with you that those county boys know how to do the roads.
Good, good.
Thank you.
Mr. Vos, thank you very much, but stick around for item number 7.
Consider approving an agreement with Federal Highway Administration, FHWA, for a $240,000 Federal Safe Streets for All, SF4A, planning grant with a local match amount not to exceed $60,000 and a Kansas Department of Transportation, KDOT, reimbursement of local costs agreement to reimburse the county 50% of the local match.
Mr. Vos.
Continuing on with the safety theme today, this item is to accept a Safe Streets for All planning grant, otherwise known as SS4A, from the Federal Highway Administration. The federal SS4A program fits well with the data-driven, systematic approach Public Works has used to prioritize safety projects since 2012. Factors such as traffic counts, access density, edge condition, roadside conditions, and crash data are all utilized in ranking road segments for improvement. We have seen significant results as shown in the briefing sheet with an overall 33% reduction in crashes since 2013, while traffic volumes have increased by 49% over the same time frame, and a more specific 40 to 80% demonstrable reduction in run-off-the-road crashes on specific safety improvement projects that have been completed. This grant will help us update our current long-range safety plan developed through collaboration with KDOT to the federal action plan required to submit projects for SS4A implementation grants. The second component of this briefing sheet is accepting a Kansas Department of Transportation reimbursement of local cost agreement, which will reimburse the county 50% of the required local match for the federal SS4A grant. With this KDOT grant, the overall cost to the county is reduced to about $30,000. The funding for the county match will come from the Bridge Culvert Road Improvement Capital Improvement Program. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Brewer.
So not so much a question, but a lot of thanks to Mr. Voss and Mr. Kellenberger for taking some time to really meet with me and to go through not only what the proposal is, but also the data of how we arrive to our decision-making on what roads are prioritized, why, and how we address that, and quite frankly, how limited we are due to budget constraints to do. We're limited in our number of road miles every year that we're able to do. So this grant is extremely important, as is the state match. Well, hopefully then freeing up funds as we continue to do road improvements. But I appreciate it, as some of the roads that are in my district will, I'm sure, benefit from this work. So thank you. And my understanding is it's after we approve this grant, then you do the due diligence of identifying based on the dollars and resources you have, based on your data analytics of what roads then go forward.
Yeah, we already have that program. This is just, we'll be updating our data and then conforming to all the requirements of the federal plan.
Thank you.
All right, not seeing any further questions. Thanks, Mr. Vos. Will the clerk read item 8?
Resolution number WD 25-036. Consider adopting resolution number WD 25-036, amending the pilot project for limited reimbursement of street restoration costs associated with building service line repairs to include septic to sewer connections and allow for the maximum allowable reimbursement amount to be adjusted for inflation using the engineering new record construction cost index.
Welcome back, Susan Picard.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and good afternoon, Commissioners. So this request before you, just to give a little bit of background, the sanitary service line that are connecting homes and other buildings to the sanitary sewer main, those are actually owned by the property owner. And we had discussions with the board back in 2016, and the board found at that time that the cost, particularly of repairing the public street, which in some cases the sanitary service line actually has to run under the street in order to connect to the sewer main, that can be a disincentive to actually repairing and maintaining the building service line. And so the board actually passed a resolution that created the Street Restoration Fund in the amount of $500,000. So we set that aside for that particular purpose of reimbursing property owners when they're doing repairs on their service lines for any costs associated with the public street restoration. So now fast forward, and so to date, actually, we have had several properties utilize that. To date, we've had about 70 properties utilize that fund. And so far, we have expended $348,240 of that fund. And we set that up as a pilot to really assess how that's going. So clearly, we have property owners that are able to take advantage of this project or this fund in order to help them maintain their service line for their property. So we do still have properties within our service area that are on septic, so private septic systems. And from time to time, those properties, usually because their septic has failed, they want to connect to the public sewer. And again, the public street can be a disincentive to going ahead and following through with that connection once they buy their sewer connection permit. And so what we're requesting as part of this is to amend that the resolution, I apologize, I need a little more coffee today, I guess, to amend the, resolution from 2016 to include the single-family residential properties that are on septic to allow them to be reimbursed for costs associated with restoring the public street when they connect to the sanitary sewer system. We also would like to amend it, included in that resolution in 2016, there was a cap of $5,000 for any restoration and for any reimbursement costs. And so the size of the reimbursement was really based on the amount of cut associated with the street that needed to be restored. And we'd like to amend that to allow for adjustments for inflation from time to time. And we would utilize the engineering news record construction cost index in order to assess what those inflation adjustments would need to be. So hopefully that was clear. I apologize for my kind of stuttering through that, but be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bucaric, I have just a vaguest recollection of this discussion. John O'Neill was director at that time.
Correct.
The conversation that I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that we try this for a few years and see how it works. Well, it's been 10 years now, so is this a pilot or is this just a program that we're going to offer? I mean, I think it's been piloting long enough, don't you think?
Yes, however, since we still have funds remaining from that original set aside, we're just continuing to utilize those. And so we would expect that once those funds have been, and those were set aside from our operating reserves, once those funds have been expended, that then we would return to the board and have that included as part of our normal budget.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brewer.
So that helps answer one of my questions, because I was thinking if this is started back in 2016 and over the course of approximately a decade, of the 100,000 initial pilot, about 350 has been used, so there's about 150 left. Why I'm not seeing a request for additional funds if we're continuing it, but what I'm understanding is we're going to exhaust the initial amount that was under the umbrella of the pilot and then come back with whatever that estimate is based on your data that you've gathered from the pilot and these new changes.
Right.
The other question that I have is, so at the time the cap was 5,000, right? And so now we want to put an inflation escalator in there. That 5,000 was established back in 2016 when the pilot was established. So I have to imagine that material cost over that course of a decade have changed substantially. So when you do the inflation adjustment, are you going back? Are you starting with that 5,000 as your basis point? Are you looking at the inflation that has occurred between 2016 and now and making the adjustment? How are you activating the inflation adjustment calculation?
I think, so that would be part of our review of our procedures. And what I would expect is that we'll start with 2016 simply because there were some pretty significant construction cost inflation periods in 2021, 2023. And so we'll go back to 2016 and make those adjustments from that period forward, and then to once the board has approved, and then we'll do an annual review after that, so.
So if I'm understanding what you just shared with me correctly, that first adjustment, inflation adjustment may be more significant.
Correct.
Because we're going back from the originating date and looking forward based on material, cost associated with the work.
Yeah.
And then subsequent years will be more minimal, reflecting just year-to-year, year-over-year inflation changes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, okay.
That helps, thank you.
All right. Seeing no further questions, will the clerk read item 9, please?
Resolution number WD 25-037. Consider entering into agreements to reimburse the City of Lenexa for the 2024 Pavement Management Program in an amount not to exceed $18,660. The 2025 Pavement Management Program in an amount not to exceed $72,930. The 103rd Street over Flat Rock Creek Bridge Replacement Project in an amount not to exceed $154,000, and the 89th Terrace and 90th Street Storm Drainage Improvements Project in an amount not to exceed $240,581, and allocating funds in the amount of $486,171 previously designated for the CMSD City Project Reallocations Fund to reimburse Lenexa for the 4 projects.
Susan Vicari.
All right, thank you. As read by the clerk, we have 4 agreements here with the City of Lenexa that we are requesting the board authorize. Charter resolution does allow us to put multiple projects into one briefing sheet for a single resolution here. There's no funding being requested as part of this. Our funding actually is part of the City Projects Relocations Fund, which was previously approved by the board. So we have, and that fund is to be utilized for reimbursing cities for which we have right-of-way agreements for when they are doing city, street, and stormwater improvements that might require some relocation of sanitary sewer or some other adjustments within the sanitary sewer system as part of their project. And that would be for areas where our sewers are located within the city's right-of-way. The city of Lenexa, we do not currently have a right-of-way agreement with them. However, the projects that were described here, those are very similar in scope and in purpose to the right-of-way agreements that we have with other cities. And therefore, we are recommending that the board, when they authorize reimbursement of the funds, that we can utilize the funds from that city reimbursement fund that we have in place already for these street and storm projects. I can go through each of the projects. There's a map here. Essentially, they are some pavement and stormwater projects, all located within the city of Lenexa. The first map there, I think we're doing some manhole adjustments and then concrete in the pavement to around the manholes that are in the streets. And I think a similar thing on the second project there. And then there's stormwater. There was a bridge project there, and then this is a storm drainage project in which there is a sanitary sewer line that has to be replaced as part of that, and then with some concrete reinforcement in order to protect the sewer line. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, Ms. Pekarik, thank you. This is a reimbursement item, so pretty straightforward. The question I have is, in the future, is it contemplated that Johnson County Wastewater will seek a right-of-way agreement with the city of Lenexa?
Yes, we'll continue to pursue that agreement with the city. Yes.
That'd be great. Thank you. Commissioner Ashcraft.
Mr. Chair. Just to follow on to your question, why do we not have something like that with the city of Lenexa already?
We've continued to work with them, and I think it's just, it depends on, I don't want to speak for them, but it depends on the number of projects that we have, and we actually don't have that many projects with the city of Lenexa, so that may be why we haven't been able to get that completed yet, but we'll continue to pursue it.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Pekarik, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 10, please, Madam Clerk.
Request for proposal RFP number 2025-021. Consider authorizing a contract with Pictometry International Corp. Doing business as Eagle View for aerial imagery project at an annual cost not to exceed $169,650 for a 12-month period with the option to renew for an additional 4 12-month periods.
Bill Nixon here to discuss the item. Welcome back, Mr. Nixon.
Thank you. Bill Nixon, I'm here to request your approval of a contract with Eagle View for annual aerial imagery services. Got to make sure I speak right. At just under $170,000 for 12 months with 4 optional 1-year renewals. This provides updated orthogonal, which is top-down pictures, along with oblique, which is sort of 45-degree aerial pictures. We first captured the orthogonal in 1994, and we first captured the obliques in 2006. These images are used by the appraiser's office, storm, water management, various mapping services within the county, so they provide a lot of value. In addition, residents can go and download their pictures as well. Eagle View was chosen through an RFP process described in the briefing sheet, scoring 87 out of 100 against the second finalist that scored a 78. The RFP committee included members from DTI, the appraiser's office, and the city of Lenexa. Funding is provided by the Register of Deeds Technology Fund, which you approved in November. This is basically just approval because it exceeds $150,000.
Mr. Nixon, thank you very much. Commissioner Ashcraft has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Nixon, is there a cost escalation component in this agreement?
It is built into the agreement, so we're fixed at that cost with the renewal, from what I understand.
Okay, so there's not a 10% increase each. Okay, very
No,
good.
that's sort of why we're doing the optional.
Sounds good. And the difference between the two proposals is rather de minimis. I just wanted to say that so the chairman heard me. But I did want to ask the question, even though it's only $40,000 difference and it's well within what your budget expectations were. What was the compelling reason for choosing this vendor over the other? I understand the scoring, but what was it that compelled you to select them? And that's just not contained in the briefing sheet as best as I can tell.
Yeah, so I wasn't directly part of the committee, but it was scored based on the factors that were included. So if you look at the briefing sheet, if you could bring the briefing sheet up. Sorry.
Well, I understand the factors. We can discuss
Yep.
it offline.
Yep.
I'm just more curious than anything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The other thing is we have experience with this firm. They've provided these services for us before, so there is some comfort with them because of that.
Thank you.
Looks like we're about $30,000 under the estimated
Correct.
budgeted cost. which
I
is
was going to
great.
mention that as well. We estimated about 200,000.
Good to hear. All right, not seeing further questions on this one. Would the clerk read item 11, please?
Request for proposal, RFP number 2025-020. Consider authorizing a contract with the top-ranked firm for SCADA vulnerability management software at a cost not to exceed $262,360 for a period of 36 months with the option to renew for an additional 2 12-month periods.
Mr. Nixon.
Yes, as noted, I'm requesting your approval of a contract with a vendor for SCADA cybersecurity software in the amount that was mentioned. The vendor was chosen through a review of 6 submitted proposals. The top firm scored 78.6 compared to 72.2 for the second firm. The RFP committee included employees from DTI, wastewater, and airport. Funding for this is partially being funded by a $75,000 grant, which we accepted about this time last year from DHS. And then the rest of that funding will be provided out of the DTI budget. Approval is requested since this agreement exceeds $150,000. I'm happy to address any of the selection process here, but I would ask, given it's cybersecurity software, if we get into any specifics about that, I'd ask we take that somewhere else.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nixon. Building upon the last statement there, if there are questions, there was a request for discussion. We do have a motion prepared to call an executive session, which would be proper under the rules, should we want to do so. Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you. Mr. Nixon, I had a question, a broad question about this service and then actually the one before. Are there any possibilities of shared services among governments for things like the aerial imagery project or cybersecurity that could result in any kind of efficiencies or cost savings, or those things that are really specific to the county's specific needs? I'm thinking, like I know that Mark does a lot of aerial imagery type projects, and so I'm just thinking, are these things, is there any possibility of that kind of sharing of these services?
For the imagery, there is sharing we do, and that's why we included somebody from the city of Lenexa in that bid. There is a lot of sharing that goes on, and interlocal agreements that we have with a lot of the cities, along with some of the utilities for the images. For the cybersecurity software, I'd rather have, if there's questions about that, I'd rather discuss that on what sharing we do outside of this.
Thank you. That's enough for me.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, an executive session is not necessary. I will visit with Mr. Nixon on some incidental questions. Just because of the framing of the issue, I understand the sensitivity, but I'd just like to understand the process a little bit more deeply.
Of course.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brewer.
I don't think the 2 questions I have raises to the level of executive session. I'm just making the assumption that it's intentional that we don't name the firms that bid because it's
Correct.
part of that security. I'm good with that. And then, just because the ARCA term on the funding overview was a little different than how you presented it, because it talks about that $75,000 grant being used to help cover the first year of contract itself. Really, what I'm looking at is the $75,000 plus the budgeted amount requested is what allows us to cover the contract of the bidder that is recommended being selected. Is
Correct.
that a correct interpretation?
Correct. We have funds in the DTI budget to cover this. In addition, we're using the $75,000 to reduce the amount that's coming out of our budget.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further questions, thank you, Mr. Nix.
Thank you.
How about item number 12, please?
Request for proposal, RFP number 2025-032. Consider authorizing Chief Counsel Peg Trent to contract with Co-Resnick Advisory LLC for HIPAA security and privacy support services at a cost not to exceed $250,000 for a period of 12 months with the option to renew for an additional 4 12-month periods. And consider authorizing the reallocation and expenditure of risk management fund balance reserves for fiscal year 2025 in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
Mr. Otto.
Good morning, Aaron Otto, the County Manager's Office, and today coming to you in a little bit different hat I'm wearing, and that is as the recently named County HIPAA Privacy Officer. So just as a little reflection back on history, late in 2024, the board adopted a resolution reorganizing the compliance and the structure for the confidentiality and security of protecting health information in the county. The reorganization called for a centralization and oversight of the county's compliance and adoption of a multidisciplinary approach to ensure the incorporation of guidance and input from the county managers and a number of central services groups such as the Legal Department, Department of Technology, Human Resources, Financial Management Administration, for example. The work here is to ensure that we also maintains the autonomy that's needed for adapting requirements to meet each of the 7 different covered entities' departments' unique needs. So through this approach, the next step on this is working on picking a vendor that will help us do some of the professional services we need in order to ensure our compliance and keeping best practices in play. So this RFP was issued earlier this year, was opened in September with 34 groups reviewing it, 7 responding, and 3 getting an interview in person. Co-Resnick demonstrated a clear and capable understanding of the scope of work and has the related experiences and has successfully provided similar services to other like agencies on both a county and state level. Part of the scope of work includes the work that needs to be done to conduct a risk assessment of potential risks and vulnerabilities, to maintaining the confidentiality and integrity of available electronic records that are held by the county. To support this proactive compliance, it's required by HIPAA that you do a review, and it's time for that review again for the county to take place. So Co-Resnick would be the ones that lead that assessment in coordination with the county legal department to evaluate each of the health and human services departments for opportunities for further improve our security. This review would be conducted as opposed to an individual one-on-one basis with each department. It's being done in a unified approach that will allow all the covered entities to be reviewed as one effort. That results in one set of questions, one set of reviewers, one set of recommendations going forward. So expect that process to take a good part of 2026 with recommendations being reviewed for implementation later in the year. This firm can also provide training materials to the 7 covered entities within the county and also look at our business associate agreements with outside parties that we contract with to provide services on behalf of the county. I want to thank the Selections Committee, Purchasing, and certainly Natalie from Legal for all of her support through all of this. And today the staff is in front of you asking for the ability to contract with Co-Resnick, the preferred firm during the selection RFP process.
Thank you, Mr. Otto. Commissioner Brewer.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation, Mr. Otto. I just have an interpretation question for you, just to make sure I'm understanding. I have to believe this type of service, when you get bids on this type of service, are they giving you a bid range because until you get into the actual work, right? And what may result or what may happen in that work, you may not be able to bid a final cost contract. You may have to do it as a range. I'm asking this because the one part of the briefing sheet I found a little bit confusing is we're asking for spending authority up to 250, and then further in the analysis of the bids on the third page, we talk about the bid, 3 finalists ranged from 85,000 to about 200,000. So there's 2 ways I can interpret that. You know, either there was a finite cost, the lowest being 85, the highest being 200,000, or that because they're doing an analysis, they're going to do recommendations, and until they get into that work, you can't really say it's only going to cost X. It may cost more or it may cost less, so you get a range. So can you help me understand if I'm understanding this?
You captured one of the nuances to this process. So that range talked about part of the scope of work. And that's because if you have an opportunity to look at what all is included, like number 4 talks about on-call consulting services. So those may be a one-off situation where something pretty unique happens and we want to reach out and talk through that approach on how to respond to it. So that's an example that we have an hourly rate, but we don't know the other multiplying factor of number of hours because each situation could be different. Likewise, number 3 talks about doing assessments on a periodic basis as opposed to just waiting to every 5 years to do a review. Those 2 are ones that may have some flexible give in there. So that number is largely based on the biggest part of this work, which is what I've spent the most time talking about, which is that every basically 5-year incomplete enterprise review for the 7 covered entities effort. So each of them came back. They were allowed to ask clarifying questions. We were pretty detailed in describing who the groups are, how many different employees were covered, the number of different software programs that might be at play. We tried to give as much information in advance as possible to get some pretty solid numbers. We did have the opportunity when we did have a selected firm to go and visit with them and make sure there was no clarifying questions to see if they could sharpen their pencils any further on that. And we did have those dialogues and conversations. They were able to bring their price down a little bit after hearing further that they were the preferred vendor.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Building a little bit on Commissioner Brewer's question, maybe a little different context. My understanding, in some circumstances, you do what I would call scenario bidding or scenario proposals and ask them to respond to that. When the actual work begins, you've got their rates, their costs, considerations that then they stick to for the project or the events that you need them to be involved in. Is that what this is?
To an extent, but I would go back to the first item, which was the 5-year review. That's the one I think it was the most apples to apples comparison between them. That's why when we had the bids back and most of the rest were rates, and it's hard to compare rates because you don't have the volume of time in there. So we really base this on what is the every 5-year review on the 7 organizations. And that's where we provided the most detail. So that number probably is pretty fixed. And the thing I should tell the board is, so the 250 was done so that you have, about 180 for the 5-year review and then the other items potentially in there. That 5-year review is by far the most expensive thing in this proposal. I would anticipate in ongoing years when you're not doing that, you're sitting probably in the $30,000 to $60,000 annual spend, not the kind of 1-year bump that takes place every 5 years. It's more in the 180 range.
Well, I need to learn more, so maybe before next week, I would appreciate it. I'm not sure I fully gleaned that, but I do take responsibility. I didn't get this till yesterday, and it was a long agenda, and I didn't get through some of the items as thoroughly as I would have liked.
Thank you, sir.
Not seeing further questions. Thank you, Mr. Otto.
Thanks for your time.
Number 13, please.
Consider authorizing a contract with Master Transportation for the lease of 50 Ford F-650 Glavel Concorde 3, 35, and 55 passenger vehicles in an amount not to exceed $1,500,000 for the 2026 FIFA World Cup event using $1,200,000 of federal Section 5307 funding and a local match of $300,000, $150,000 of which has previously been provided to the vendor as a refundable deposit.
Bowers, welcome back.
Chairman, Commissioners, this topic, as previously touched upon is the ability for us to utilize the vehicles that last August the board authorized us to have put on hold by Masters Transportation. This is a recommendation that you authorize the leasing of all 50 of those vehicles. And the reason for that is at a minimum, we will require, in order to operate the airport pilot and a potential circulator service, we will require a minimum of between 42 and 46 of these vehicles. That does not take into account any additional capacity other than what's called the federal spare ratio. So when you are operating a service, the total number of vehicles that are in service, you are federally required to have 20% above that number, of that bare minimum to run the service. So including the spare ratio would get us to the 42 or 46 depending. We anticipate that things will happen that we have not accounted for. So a transmission blows or there's an accident. Obviously, we hope that doesn't happen. By leasing the full amount of the 50 vehicles, that would give us between 4 and 8 additional vehicles to have on hand and ready to respond to any increases in volume, usage, or other vehicles going down for whatever reason. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Powers, thank you very much. I think the explanation regarding contingency, as well as being able to be timely if demand increases beyond expectation. I think we had contemplated 50, and I think 50 remains a good number, so thank you very much.
If you wouldn't mind, Chairman, I failed to mention, I think it's relevant, especially in light of some of the other items today, by locking this lease in and the pricing that we were able to achieve back in 2024, we're saving about $800,000 versus going out and leasing vehicles of this type today. So I just want to make sure that we highlight that we're trying to save money by doing these things.
And I appreciate your prudence. I believe we were the first agency to secure buses, even before KC 2026, which was the first of the host committees to secure buses. So we are ahead of the curve, and thank you very much for your efforts there. Commissioner Ashcraft.
Mr. Powers, are the circular routes set yet?
I would say they are mostly set. We're in the process of going out and meeting with local jurisdictions to actually go out, myself and our Deputy Director Justice Walker, to actually go out, be on the street and determine the exact location and alignment of the routes, turn radiuses, those kinds of things. But the locations are generally agreed upon.
So are you getting good support from the communities?
Yes, absolutely.
Are you getting financial support from the communities?
So we are sharpening our pencils right now to put some anticipated funding, to a point where we can agree upon it. But yes, the cities that are going to have stops are going to participate financially.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Thank you. I have a question because it's a question I've been asked, Mr. Powers, is in regard to drivers for these vehicles. Can you speak to that? Are you feeling comfortable that we'll have enough drivers, or are you undertaking any kind of special steps to ensure we have drivers?
Sure. So the funding that we have identified through various funding partners, really, as in all things transit, what you're paying for is labor and commodities. And so we have an agreement in place with our vendor, Transdev, to bring in over 100 additional drivers that are outside of our current force of operators to focus on these services. We've also entered into an agreement with a location to have them housed because of this pressure on hotels and lodging during the course of the World Cup. So we are prepared on all fronts to stand up the service that we've discussed. We're just in that final stretch of getting all the agreements put in place.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your planning. I really don't want to have to go out and get a CDL so I can
We'd be glad to have you.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Thank you, Chair. Could you, Mr. Powers, when you get time, let me know if there's any of those stops in my district?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brewer.
Thank you, Chair. First, I know this has been a very intentional work on the part of a very small transit department that we have at Joco Transit, so I want to acknowledge that and thank you. I don't think we can underscore enough. It's not like we did not know the World Cup was coming, and so what we did was very intentional in '24 in that early reserving the buses, and I know we have up until January, I think of '26, if we were going to change that number and still get some of our deposit, that $150,000 deposit back. But that $800,000 savings, I just want to state that again, because that's what intentional planning looks like, so I want to acknowledge that. I did have a request, as we move this to action next week, do you mind just including a picture of the two different types of motor coaches? I think that'll help the public have a greater understanding of the type of equipment we're going to see. It's going to look different, right? And that also might give us a window of what the future could look like on a K-10 route or on a, the airport shuttle route and stuff of making it not only more accessible, better for our environment, but maybe also a little bit more, a comfortable ride. So I'd like to see that included in next week's agenda pack, if that's okay.
We will absolutely do that, and they look great, and obviously the offer stands. They're out at the Nolte Transit Center. We have several of the units, so if you ever want to come out and see them, if you haven't already, they're available to
I
you.
got to tour one, but I haven't toured the other one
Very
yet,
good.
so I can't remember which one you had at the
big one.
KC Sporting. Okay, that was the bigger of the two? Okay, thank you.
All right. Further questions on this? Consider consent. Okay.
Thank you.
Good there. Thank you, Mr. Powers. I believe that's all the items we'll have on the agenda for next week. We're going to go ahead and adjourn this agenda review, take a break till 1:15. We'll have the committees of the whole at that time, and then executive sessions thereafter. All right? Very good. Okay. Okay. Adjourn. No.